They can't hear you. Green, they can't.
Really? Like red stop, green go. Gotcha, buddy.
See, you're gonna be.
You got it, buddy.
So we're ready to go when you are.
Good. Okay. My bearings here.
Okay.
Got it? Everything good?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go ahead and call our regular meeting of the Wayne County Board of Education to order. It's 6 o'clock. And if you'll stand, we'll say the pledge. Brandy, you want to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show all board members are present in person this evening.
Yes, we are.
And we'll begin with recognitions if we have any.
No recognitions.
Okay.
And before we get to the presentations, can we go ahead and do the addendum?
Yes.
Yep.
Items of public comment, receive public comment on the 2025-2026 school year calendar.
So you have the school calendars that were approved for voting this year. And of course, final approval is yours. If you would want to tweak these calendars in any way, you could. You see that calendar 1 was the most popular calendar and had received the most approval within the district. But we have to have 2 public hearings. Tonight is the first public hearing. Our next regular meeting will be the second public hearing on that evening after taking public comment. We'll ask you to approve the calendar. And so calendar 1 is the one I'm going to be recommending to you. And so the only purpose that we needed to serve tonight was to see if there was anybody here to speak towards the calendar. Anybody here for public comment on the calendar? Okay, hearing none, we can move on. There's no motion or anything that's needed there.
Okay, then.
Perfect.
Okay.
Back to our regular agenda with presentations. Update the board on matters pending at the West Virginia Grievance Board with Leslie Tyree. Is
Yeah.
Leslie here?
It was we're actually going to join her online in the
Okay.
conference
Okay.
room, but since it is a legal matter, we'll need to do a brief executive session.
So I'll need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Executive section.
Okay. Motion by Janitas, second by Randy.
Randy,
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. It is 6:02. And we will return shortly.
Okay.
They're gonna make you people wait.
and Randy, if you don't care, mute your mic there.
Thank you.
if you want to be heard.
Back to it.
Okay, we ready?
All right, I need a motion to return.
Okay,
Randy, second.
second.
Johnita. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. It is 6:28. All right, that concludes the legal updates, so we can move on to our good news.
Well, before we do that, Nikki Steffi's going to give us our measuring success report.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I left it off the agenda,
That's
so
all
my
right.
fault.
I thought maybe she was just here to hang out with us,
We're bored.
right? Thank you.
You always thought you were bored, Nikki. Or didn't go home to the kids.
I did miss some good weather today.
All right.
Okay, if you
Okay.
guys will turn to page 5. Last board meeting I was at with your update, I was telling you all that we were in the middle of our testing window for our state benchmark assessment.
Yeah.
So just a reminder, the state benchmark assessment we take in the fall and in the winter, and this is the assessment that is created from Cambium, which also creates the general summative assessment, and it is the same test blueprint of the summative assessment. So these tests test our students on all standards for their grade level. So we expect scores in the fall to be really low because they haven't been exposed to all those standards yet. And then we track that growth in the winter. So what you're going to see on page 5, this is all ELA data. I left last year's ELA data on top, so that top box with data is from last year just to have some comparison. And then we can focus down here on the bottom. You'll see that this bottom has a lot more data. And the reason why is because we are really focusing with our teachers and administrators on our special education population data, looking at how our students with IEPs and 504s are performing in comparison to our overall. So we'll just dive in here. So what you're going to see for ELAs, of course, we have each of our categories. The red is our percentage of kids not meeting standard. That yellow gold color is the percentage partially meeting standard. Green is meet standard, blue is exceeds, and then that next column is percent proficient. So in terms of proficiency, so what we're held accountable for with the state balanced scorecard, proficiency is any students meeting or exceeding standards. So that is the green and the blue columns combined. And I broke it out this way because we have that growth mindset. So sometimes we may not have kids meeting proficiency, but we can see those big jumps from the does not meet standard to the partially meets, and that's what we want to see is make sure our kids are growing. And so you can see your fall to winter data. So the gray is showing all. So starting there at 3rd grade, all for ELA, if you go over towards the right, in the fall, we were only at 6% proficiency, which, as I said, we expect those numbers really low in the fall because they're being tested on their standard skill learning throughout the school year. And then this winter, that jumped up to 28%. So that growth was 22%. And that growth column is just growth and proficiency. So any students that grew from does not meet to partially meet wouldn't be reflected in that column. So that growth column is just growth and proficiency. And then if you want to compare that to how our 3rd graders performed last year, I know it's 2 different groups of kids, but it's interesting because last year from fall to winter, we went from 8 to 28%. So we're right in line with where we were last year with this group of kids. Then on down to 4th grade all. In the fall, they were at 21% proficient. They've jumped up to 40% proficient. 5th grade all, 26% in the fall, up to 41% proficient. 6th grade, 30, jumped up to 43% proficient. 7th grade, 27% to 33%, and 8th grade, 25 to 33%. So we had growth across the board. Also, when you're looking at this ELA data, you can see that even in our subgroup population, the students with 504s and IEPs, you can see growth across the board there, which is really positive.
That's great.
Do we happen to know what those grade levels were at last year? You had mentioned the 3rd grade. Do you know the others by chance?
Yep, they're right on top here. So this is all last year's.
Okay, I
So this
gotcha.
was last year's So we're really, we're running very close with how we were last year. And we ended the year, I was happy with how we ended the year last year in terms of our growth and where we ended, so this is promising. And if you flip to the next page, on page 6, same exact data, but this is our math data. So once again, if you want those comparisons, as Mr. Alexander mentioned, to see where we were last year, that's on top. And then on the bottom here, you can see our 3rd grade math data. We went from 2 to 27% proficient in 3rd grade. 4th grade overall, 10% to 33%. 5th grade overall, 7% to 26%. 6th grade, 6 to 15%. 7th grade, 10 to 19%, and 8th grade, 2 to 15%.
Wow.
So really nice growth across the board. And then just a couple things to note. I had told you that that growth column is only growth and proficiency. So if you look, we did have a couple places with our 5th grade 504 students and our 6th grade IEP students. You're seeing 0% growth. But if you look over to the far left and you see those numbers for the does not meet standard, you can see there was a huge decrease. 5th graders with 504s, there was 87% of those students did not meet standard in the fall, and that decreased down to 47%.
Wow.
So that's really
Good,
positive there. So I just want to keep that in mind. Same there with 6th grade IEP students. You saw movement there from students in the does not meet standard into that partially meets. So although we didn't see that growth in overall proficiency, there was still some huge gains there with those groups. And then on the next page, page 7, this is science data. And just like the GSA, we only assess our 5th and 8th grade students in science. But once again, really positive here. We've got last year's data on the top. This year, 5th graders in the fall were 16%, jumped to 35% proficient. 8th graders, 19 to 27% proficient. And if you look at where we were last year in the winter, we came in stronger in both 5th and 8th grade this year, so that's positive. Any questions on the state benchmark data?
Nope.
Okay, if you want to move to page 10, I believe our attendance data is next. Okay. So for February, currently right now, we're at 25% of our students being labeled as chronically absent. That's a little lower than we've seen, but of course, with all the days missed, that counts as 100% attendance. So hopefully, though, we can maintain that as well. Then if you go to page 11, that's our staff chronically absent. Once again, we saw a slight decline in percent chronically absent, but same situation as with the students where we've had the days out of the building. It's actually helped our overall attendance. And then if you go on to page 13, the last updates I have for you today is just our walkthrough data, which we were talking today in one of our data meetings with administrators about how many days we've missed due to the snow and all of that. So once again, I was pleasantly surprised that overall we still had 152 walkthroughs documented across all of our schools, despite the many days we were out. And then what I think is really important to note here, as I was looking at this data, when you look at think ratio, the walkthroughs labeled low, it was 9%. And when you look at participation ratio, the walkthroughs that were labeled low participation ratio was 2%. Those were our lowest percentages in that low category. And that tells me that in February, of all this missed instructional time, our teachers have come in knowing that instructional time is more important now than ever and really push the rigor and the think ratio and the participation ratio in their classrooms. I thought that was positive.
Very good.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, honey.
All right. Good news? Anyone?
Well, I just think we ought to talk about Brian Stacy moving the basketball game at Belfry High School so those boys could have their
Middle
senior
school.
night. I
Yeah.
thought that was
Very,
very,
very kind.
very kind of him and very thoughtful. And then our girls basketball team, Wayne and Spring Valley boys are really doing good.
Congratulations to the Crumb Middle School County Champions basketball.
Absolutely.
Very good.
There we
I
go.
think, Spring Valley, the boys and the girls won the MSSAC.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Not to say that, that's all those big schools,
that was great.
they still beat them.
All good. Very good.
Yeah, good news.
Wayne's always had a real good basketball team. Fort Gay's getting there. And,
The Maddings boy from Wayne High School broke a all-time scoring record at Wayne.
He's now the
Wayne
leader.
High
Big
School.
William.
Yeah.
My
From
first
what I
cousin.
pointed out, William didn't have a 3-point shot back then.
Exactly right. That's true, Randy. I hadn't thought about that.
All right. Anything else? All right. All good news. Moving on to our informational items. Special meeting on Tuesday, March the 4th, beginning at 4 at CK Elementary. And we will reconvene at CK Middle at 5:15. Those are our LSIC meetings. Regular meeting on Tuesday, March the 11th, beginning at 6 here in the board conference room. A special meeting on Tuesday, March the 18th, beginning at 4 at Kellogg. And then we will also visit Benson Middle at 5:15 that day. Regular meeting on Tuesday, March 25th, beginning at 6 here in the conference room again.
Okay.
Moving on to construction project updates.
Yeah, so the Wayne Elementary School Major Improvement Project, the 3-room addition, is now under roof. They've got the steel set for the roof, and they have the decking up. So they are in from the weather, and they're starting to work on the brick on the project.
I'm keeping up with him.
The Sarita Canova Alumni Gym, we're still in the design phase there. We have a asbestos triads going in to do an asbestos review of that basement to see how we're going to handle the ductwork for the HVAC there.
Wow.
And so that is underway. Buffalo K-8, tonight on your agenda, we're going to recommend a construction manager to you for that construction management services for that project. Other than that, we're still under the same status. We're working on the traffic patterns there with the civil engineers and also on the design. Next meeting on that will be this Thursday. Just some internal meetings looking at the design of the building. And then the Wayne High School VOAG building is, we've got the specs back from McKinley. We asked for a scaled down set of specs so we can try to get that project moving forward. And we are currently reviewing those specs here and are preparing to go out to bid on that project again.
All right.
That's all I have. I do want to mention at Spring Valley High School at the soccer field. I had
Yeah.
mentioned before that we have a serious drainage issue there. I had a meeting yesterday with the CK Volunteer Fire Department, the CK Fire Department, I should say, and the VA regarding what can be done there to help with those flooding issues. Well, number one, we've got to get our drainage pipe repaired. So we're gonna have to do some work there. So I'm imagine that we're gonna be putting some specs together for that project.
Are we gonna make them bigger?
If we have to tear that entire drain was when it was put in, it runs at a diagonal from back behind the fire department out to Spring Valley Drive. It goes underneath the parking lot and it goes underneath the soccer field. So if we have to tear that out, it's going to be a major project. I'm hoping that when we get in there, that it's a plastic drainage pipe. And if it is, we'll be able to just repair it and then move on. And we've talked to the VA. The VA has talked to us about doing a retention pond, and that will help those flooding issues that are occurring there. But we're going to draw up some specs to begin that work and try to get that advertised here in the next week or two. So I'll keep you posted as we move forward with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Delegations, do we have any delegations this evening? None?
None.
All right. Superintendent reports.
I could have put this under good news, but the state, they have some money, and there's a letter that's in your manila folder from the Department of Education.
Okay.
There's been some money allocated for safe schools funds.
Yep.
So the Department of Education put out a opportunity to apply for grants. We took advantage of that opportunity to apply for grants, and you can see on the back page of that letter that we were one of the school systems that were approved. We were approved for a $26,531 grant.
Good.
That will pay for the access controls that we talked about at Tulsa and Wayne High School.
All right,
And
great.
then it's going to also, we're going to do some fencing down at CK Middle School as well, where the schools there in the neighborhood, we're going to do some fencing to
Good.
define that property a little bit better.
Will have safe school entrance, all those
No, it's just access controls for,
access.
yeah. So kind of like the badge swipe systems, that type of thing.
Okay.
It's expanding access controls for student use as well. So that was good news.
That's helpful.
Very good.
Also in your manila folder, right behind that letter is the CEFP annual update form. So in the spring, we have a chance to apply for a major improvement project. That's $1 million grant from the state. So I should say up to $1 million we can apply for. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at what is in our comprehensive educational facilities plan. And on page 1 and 2, you have the 23 items that were in our CEFP. Now, you remember when we updated this form, we had marked a number of those as either completed or in progress. So our next step is to, look at some of these items that have not been completed yet. And I'd like to consider doing a major improvement project for Tulsa High School and for Spring Valley High School. If, depending on the budget for each project, to see if we can fit that under $1 million.
The man traps,
Yeah,
that'd be good.
that would be items number 18 and 19.
Okay.
Make it safer for everybody.
Now, if we can't fit those two within the budget, then we might take a look at one of the other schools there, as far as the middle schools go, for a man trap.
Right.
But I just wanted to give you an idea of what I was thinking and give you a chance to give me any feedback
Okay.
off of that list. If there's something that you'd like to,
CK Middle might be an option just because it would be the only middle school left that wouldn't have,
well, we got Vincent.
well, Vincent.
Yeah.
But CK is kind of more,
The guy's really
Open.
open.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really open.
All those separate buildings.
So I'm gonna get the architects down, start taking a look at the sites
Yeah.
to see what we can fit in within that budget.
right.
Now, again, as you know, we've got major construction going on right now at Wayne Elementary and then at Buffalo as well. So we're not going to have any additional funds that we can
Right.
do matching funds with this. But if we have an opportunity to submit and ask for the money, I think we should.
Oh, sure.
At least ask,
Don't hurt to ask.
right? First they can say is no.
That's right. Okay.
Okay, and then next up,
School closing.
we're going to hit that a little bit later.
Okay, then, what we hitting? Calendar? I'm running out of staff time.
We're missing a page. Let's go ahead and hit the school closings.
Okay.
So you should have.
Wow.
I see you found it.
There's that.
You should have a list of the school closings for the year.
Right.
We've had a few.
Yeah.
So the district has been closed for a total of 11 days. And then also included in this report to you some of the individual school closures. Most impacted has been Dunlow and Genoa, as well as Tulsa, because of the water situation there. And just to mention, Genoa was without water again today.
Oh, great.
Now, we had the measures that we had put in place there a couple weeks ago to get them back in school are still in place there. So we were
Okay,
able
good.
to keep the school open, but they were without water again today. The PSD said that they were hopeful that they would be with water again in the morning. So Mr. Clay will let me know. He'll update us on what's going on there. But overall, the district's been closed for 11 days. So we have 5 non-traditional instructional days that we utilize, and we've utilized all 5 of those.
Okay.
And then we also, because of our schedules allow for bank time. And so we go beyond the minimum number of minutes required in the day. And so we're allowed by the Department of Education an additional 5 days for bank time. But again, we're at the 11th day. So that takes us now to our OSE days at the end of the year. So we're looking at, we'll move the last day for students back 1 day. And there's a school calendar for this school year that is in your folder.
I see one little girl back there looks sad.
No, you might go year round. I ain't
If you look at the bottom of the page, June 5th was labeled as a faculty senate day. That was students' last day.
Right.
Hang on, I'm still looking.
It says 2024, 2025 school year at the top.
Okay, yeah.
So June 5th was a faculty senate day. That faculty senate day will shift to June 6th. That's students' last day. That faculty senate day is the students' last day. And then the teacher's planning day will have to move to June 9th. So basically what we're doing is we're taking that OS day and flopping it with that planning day.
Okay.
And that'll be a makeup day for students.
Okay.
In addition to that, I'm also looking at March the 12th. You see that as a professional learning day.
Yep.
That counts as an instructional day, even though students aren't in school. So it doesn't impact the number we're over or anything like that, but we are looking at rescheduling that day as an instructional day with students present.
Okay.
We have to do test training on March the 12th. So we would do a 2-hour early release on that day.
Right.
To allow the test training to occur, but we could get in instruction on that day on March the 12th.
Okay.
Any concerns regarding that?
That's as of today.
Right.
Hopefully, we won't have any more closings.
Yeah, and if we miss, miss any more, then those OS days you see there at the bottom of the calendar, those will be taken one by one.
Okay.
That's what I thought. Good oak.
Because there's nothing else we can use, is there?
You sure not gonna take your spring break?
No, spring break's out of calendar.
We do not want that battle.
Okay, and then the other pages I was going to show you is there's a budget form in here. It looks like this.
God, you're just full of information.
And I'll let Jeb created this one actually.
Thank you.
Jeb, you want to go over this one?
Yeah, back in February, Mr. Alexander asked me what my thoughts on how we look for the year. Basically, just took the treasurer's report and the monthly financial report that you guys get. And if you look at this one sheet, start off with general fund, this year compared to last year, right at the end of January, we had like a 5.1 to 5.2 million dollar spread between revenue and expenditures. Permanent improvement fund, we're about 216,000 negative. All that relates to timing of property taxes coming in and what we spent so far. Capital projects fund, that's all SBA funds money. That should write itself. Matter of timing of when we submit payments to the SBA. Special revenue on 161 is special revenue, that's special projects. Again, that's time when we collect money from federal drawdowns. Fund 71, you notice Fund 71 is about $2.5 million positive. That all relates to the ESSER money that we drew down. The ESSER fund is basically, well, it's closed.
Yeah.
So that is a really positive line item there. Moving on down page there to the monthly financial report. We have $83.7 million budgeted this year. We've spent $43.5 million today. We have $34.8 million encumbered. At the end of January, we had 5.3 available balance. That sounds like a big number. But if you look at that monthly financial statement, we've got bus replacement money of 1.2. That 1.2 is going out the door.
Yeah.
Right.
Subtract that off there. And then I told him, I said, okay, let's take off the reserve. That's our contingency money. And then we know we got to cover the PI fund. Well, every time we spend money on these capital projects, we have a portion that we have to pay for. And this PI fund, that number is going to go up. We're going to have to cover this $216,000. So you back all that out of there, and it brings us down to 1.2 million. And that number up there at the top, that special revenue, that number I said that was really good. You add that number back in, and at 131, when he asked me how I thought we felt, this is where, that's the number I got to. So that number is a moving number. It moves daily. We can't sustain this current pace that we're going at.
Right. Sure.
So the early projection would be a $3.7 million balance.
Right.
Now, is that just the revenue and expenditures from this year, or does that count the carryover as well?
That counts carryover.
So at one of the previous meetings, we looked at the carryover balance being at, what was it, 1.4?
Yeah, that's what the state, our actual carryover was 2.8, but the state
At that time.
unrestricted.
Right.
Unrestricted reported at 1.4. Okay. So early projections, and again, these are early projections. If there's unexpected expenses, that type of thing, that number will change. But early projections would indicate at this point that we're on pace to possibly be in the black this year.
Okay. What we want to hear.
Yep, that's good news.
Any questions regarding those numbers?
Let's hope they hold.
Keep fingers crossed.
Right.
Okay, next up, personnel season.
We got another paper?
No,
Okay.
just a couple updates and we'll give you
Poor Todd. I'd run out of room. I didn't know.
the
Yes.
personnel season is scheduled to begin next week.
Okay.
We'll be delivering letters next week out to the schools, and that'll be, transfer and reduction in force. And the reason that we have to do that, Jeb made the comment, we can't continue going at this pace. What he's talking about is our funding that we've received for this year is minus 160 students that we lost in enrollment. So the funding's always a year delayed. So the money that we have coming in next year is minus that 160 student enrollment. And so we ended up, when it was all said and done, even though we had made some substantial cuts last year, we were scheduled to be down to about 30 over formula. We're actually 50 over formula on the professional side. And then, and again, that's not from any new positions. That's
No.
just because we're not allowed as many positions
Yeah,
because of
right.
that loss of
Because
enrollment.
there's no kids.
And then on the service side, we're about 70. So we're about 100, we're about 120 over total. And so we have to address that during personnel
Yeah.
season. So there's, again, this year, there's going to be some significant movement. We know that we're going to have to add some positions based on enrollment shifts, upon special education needs. We've already projected that we're going to have to add 8 positions for next year. And then as we're looking at it now, we think that we're going to end up with a net reduction of about 32 professional positions. 32 is what we're showing right now. And then on the service side, we're going to have to add 16 third grade ECATs.
That's what I was thinking.
But even with adding those 16 third grade ECATs, we think when all is said and done, we're going to be about even, maybe 1 or 2 positions less on the service side. So we're looking at a reduction there of about 18 positions. Okay. So it's going to be difficult, but it's we've got to adjust.
It's a difficult time.
Now, if we can, as we go through that process of reducing those positions, I want to remind you that, like on the professional side, we've never had anybody that's wanted to return the next year that didn't have a job waiting on them.
Right.
And sometimes it was a different job, but they had a job there. And then on the service side, there was only once that we had employees that weren't back at the beginning of the year, just because of retirements and people moving away and just natural attrition. We've been able to absorb everybody back into the system. So as we move into personnel season, if we can reduce those number of positions, it's going to put us in good shape budget wise.
What about people that have retired? Are there any of those positions
Yes.
that we can
Yeah.
change?
Yeah.
or-
So when I say
Absorb.
that there's going to, be a net reduction of 32 positions, some of those positions will be retirements.
Right.
So it won't be 32 actual
No,
people.
but exactly.
less
That
than
would be the time that you can.
Yeah.
They'll be gone.
Yep.
Gotcha.
It's the toughest time of the year.
So I want you to keep the last week of March. If we have to do any personnel hearings, we'll
Okay.
do those during the last week of March. If they're limited, we'll do them before the regular board meeting on that Tuesday, the last week of March.
Last week of March
If
for hearings, right?
Gotcha. If we need any more, then we'll use that Thursday to schedule some more.
Okay.
And then your final approval of the list will occur on April the 8th, is what we have that scheduled to take place.
If we had to do those on, say that Thursday, that would be March 27th.
Yeah.
We would do that probably in the evening.
Yeah.
I guess, because there's a possibility I may have a deposition up in Parker's Park.
Yeah, we'll do it in the evening and we can work around your schedules as we get close. Usually we don't have
Okay.
too many.
No,
We've
we
only
didn't
had
last year.
a few,
Couple.
couple.
Okay, that's all I have.
Alrighty.
All right, no board directives or board reports. No unfinished business, so we can move on to our new business consent action items. Superintendent recommends the approval of the following action items. Additional items received prior to the time of the meeting may be added. Discussion and/or separate action of the items may be requested by members of the board and/or the superintendent. Items are subject to change. Any blanks we filled in prior to the meeting. In the event a nominee withdraws, we reserve the right to put the next candidate in that position. Number one, consider for approval the recommended personnel matters are on page 1 and 2.
There's
I
a
think
change
there's-
on page 1.
A revision.
Yeah, the.
Yeah.
The, until the return of job, the employee for that job is Amy Waller. So we're removing Rachel
As-
Stepp's name and placing in Amy Waller.
As revised. I make a motion to approve as
Second.
revised.
Second.
Motion by Johnita, second by Mark.
Mhm.
Any other questions or concerns on personnel matters? Was this one was that just,
I just have-
step take,
She was on the substitute list and decided she didn't want to take the job.
okay, so she just didn't want it, so the next one picked it up.
And like these volunteer coaches, the unpaid volunteer, now they have to be drug tested, don't they?
No, they are not drug tested.
They have to be certified coaches though.
Yeah.
So they have to take the coaching test. if
They
they-
have to
Right, I
be
knew that.
certified through the SSAC, but there's no drug testing for,
Okay, all right.
the only drug testing we have is for bus drivers.
I didn't think so, but I was just
Yeah.
checking, so. Okay.
All right. Any other questions or concerns on personnel? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 2, consider for approval voucher payments for January 2025 on pages 3 through 9. Motion,
Motion.
Randy, second.
I second it.
Dennis? Questions or concerns on our voucher payments for January 2025? Pages 3 through 9. No one?
No one.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. New business, separate action items. Number 1, consider for approval the treasurer report for January 2025 on page 12. Motion,
Motion.
Johnita,
Second.
second by Dennis. Questions or concerns? Pages 13 through 28, if anybody has any.
Now, we're still on page 12.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am one above. Well, we skipped that one. Let's back up just a second here. Consider for approval the treasury report for January 2025 on page 12. Johnita made the motion, right? Dennis
Yes,
made the
yes.
second. Sorry. I got ahead of myself. Oh, okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now we can move to number 2. Consider for approval budget supplement and transfers for January 2025, pages 13 through 28. Motion.
Motion.
Johnita,
Second.
second by Randy. Questions or concerns 13 through 28? No one? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 3, consider for authorizing the superintendent to negotiate the transfer of the property at Fort Gay High School to the town of Fort Gay.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Randy, second by Johnita. Questions or concerns on that property transfer?
When we do the negotiations, I'll come back with a transfer agreement that the attorneys have approved to you for your final approval.
Okay.
No questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 4, consider actions to dispose of surplus property in Westmoreland, including entering into negotiations with Playmates Preschool and Child Care Development or a possible auction of the property.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Johnita, second,
Second.
Randy.
And I did mention yesterday that we did have another group that reached out to us regarding the property. It was the Westmoreland Neighborhood Association. I believe I have that correct.
Historical Society.
Historical Society. Yeah, thank you.
Are they the ones
Close, Mark.
kind of
I
take
mean,
care
close,
of all
Todd.
the
Good job,
high
Mark.
school trophies and the like?
It's actually the Benson Westmoreland Community Historical Society.
Thank you.
And I have a brochure for each one of you to look at.
Okay.
Say that one more for us.
Benson Westmoreland Communities Historical Society.
That group is taking care of all the trophies and stuff.
Yes, sir,
high
that's,
school.
that's the same group.
Okay.
If I may, I'll pass these out to you. I
Sure.
brought each one of you an explanation of our group and a brief idea of what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, good.
We've been working on it for a year now.
Thank you.
We formed a 5013C. We've had a couple fundraisers. We already have a nice little bank
Well, thank
to
you.
take care of.
That's great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I think you might already have one of those.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. What we're planning, what we're thinking of doing now that this is a possibility for that property is partnering with the Benson Youth Sports because of the gym. We really wouldn't need the gym. The museum would just be using the classrooms that are attached there to make our museum. And we also have a donor that wants to remain anonymous, that he will help with our maintenance fees, utility fees and whatever to get us started.
They had contacted us yesterday and asked me to gather some costs on utilities and insurance, et cetera. And we're about 3/4 of the way down the road on that.
Thank you.
And should be able to have it to you, gosh, maybe by the end of the week or latest by early next week as far as the those costs go.
Right.
And so that's new information that's come since we posted the agenda.
But the youth sports would be able to, I mean, they would love to go in on this with us because that's the only gym that all of Benson Youth Sports has to use is
That'd be
one of
great.
Benson Middle School. And that has to be shared by every one of the teams for practices. It's only indoor facility that's there. So if we get this, then we'd be able to work out something for them to use that and us to use the classrooms as the museum.
Good.
We've already met with,
Sounds good.
I'm sorry, Kim's last name just missed, I just, Hurley, right?
Yes,
Okay, my bad.
that's all right.
We talked about making the Benson history and the museum part of the West Virginia history class at Benson Middle School. And by that being that close, they'd be able to walk the kids down to the museum and make that part of the West Virginia history class and let these kids know that there's quite a bit of history that they have no idea about Westmoreland.
Nice.
So if I could make a suggestion, what I would suggest is that perhaps you authorize me to negotiate with all parties interested in the property to bring back the offers to you
Sure.
regarding the properties. And then the board can go through we have three
Good.
groups now. The Caulfield Family Services, the Playmates, and then the Benson Westmoreland Community Historical Society as well. So we'll do the legwork on all three to see
Good deal.
their ideas for the property,
Right.
what they would like to see happen, and then I'll bring that back to you for a decision.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
So we're negotiating for proposals, right?
Yeah.
Everybody okay with that? Any
Yeah.
questions, concerns? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Before we move to this next item, I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion. I have immediate family members that are employed by 2 of the 3 companies that you'll be discussing. So I'm going to turn this over to Jonita and let her handle this item. And I will return when you're done.
So we placed out an advertisement for construction management services for the Buffalo K through 8 project. We had 3 bidders, 3 proposals that were received. One was from Neighbor Gall Construction. The other was from WB Fosson and Sons.
Now, what was that?
WB Fosson, Fosson.
Oh,
And the third was from Skanska. And so we.
what was that last? Skanska?
Skanska, Skanska.
Okay, then, boy, those are different names
Skanska
there.
Incorporated.
Okay,
And so we went through an interview process, and after going through the interview process, we would recommend Skanska as the corporation or the incorporation to do our construction management services for the district for this project.
okay, I just have a question now.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be low bid, it's just the one that's qualified, right?
And well, what you're actually doing this evening, you're authorizing me to negotiate
Okay,
a
gotcha,
contract
gotcha.
for those
For
services. And
Skanska,
I'll have to bring that contract back to you for your approval.
okay, well,
So the way that it works, and this was new to me, I know when I took the position, the way that it works with with these interviews for architect services, you don't talk price
oh, okay,
during the interview process. It's after the fact.
okay.
So at this point, this particular group, they're doing quite a bit of SBA work in the state right now, construction management services. This is what they do. And so we think that they're the best option for this project moving forward, but we need to negotiate a contract and, agree upon a price.
Okay,
So with the way that could end up working, we could authorize you to do that. You try to get a contract, and if
Then come back.
there's no agreement to it,
Then we would go to another
Go
bid,
to no one.
another proposal.
Okay,
Can I ask where are they based? Where,
Skanska they have field offices in West Virginia. They're based in Durham, North Carolina. And that WB Fosson was based out of Kentucky, I think Ashland, and then Neighbor Gall, I think is
familiar.
Thank
is based out of here.
all right. So okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So we are consider authorizing the superintendent to negotiate a contract for construction management services with Skanska Incorporated.
Correct.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Randy, second by Mark Ross. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. You can return, Ms. Hall. Like she's not by the door.
She's doing it right. She really went away.
She went out. Did you go out?
Yeah, out in the parking lot.
We try to do things according to oil.
I had to find a chair to sit in.
It was Neighbor Gall, Fosson, and Skanska. And he's negotiating with Skanska Incorporated.
All right.
Now you're up to snuff.
Thank you very much.
Missy Hall has returned.
All right, we'll move on to number 6. Thank you for doing that. Consider for approval out-of-state field trip requests. East Lynn Elementary traveling to Newport Aquarium, April 4th, and that's funded by the Special Needs Department and a school fundraiser. CK Elementary traveling also to Newport, May 16th, funded by the CK Elementary second grade. CK Elementary traveling to Kings Island on May 22nd, and that's funded by the CK fifth grade.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Johnita, second by Mark. Questions or concerns on those field trips?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Discussion items and items of concern.
So I put on here possible legislation recommendations to local legislators as a follow-up to the recent meeting with legislators. If you go to your separate attachments, the one that came with your agenda,
Okay. Todd wanted us to do our homework this time, didn't he?
Lot of reading.
Man, all the trees are dying doing this.
The first one up is on page 4, 189A2.
Yep.
And it is a policy that is currently under review, I believe, by the legislature. And what it states is that if a district falls below the enrollment of 1,400, that they will still be funded at the level of 1,400 students. So I think that there's a proposal in the legislature right now regarding that number. And so the thought was we had the discussion about community schools and about these smaller schools and how to avoid consolidations. So the thought is if you can, if you can establish a minimum low number for a district, perhaps you could do so for a school too, and give districts the ability to identify a community school and then have their minimum enrollment number set at 150, even though their actual enrollment might fall below that.
Right.
The district would still be funded at that 150 level to ensure financial support for that school remaining open. And so that was just an idea based upon our last conversations. I know that there is some legislation regarding small schools up right now. I haven't had a chance to review that legislation and exactly what it says. But I was thinking about offering this up to the legislators that were in attendance in case there's any compromise or anything that goes on there.
Right.
So any thoughts regarding that one?
I think it's a good idea.
I like that idea, but I'd like to go a step further and see if we could include the county size. I mean, being as large as we are, counties that are over a certain square miles or square mile area should have the opportunity for more than just one community school. Most of our population, of course, is in the northern end of the county, but we have several schools down south. So if we could figure out a way to incorporate that and give more than just one school the opportunity to be designated as a community school, maybe 2 or 3, depending on how large your county is. So I don't know. I was thinking, average county size, if I'm guessing, would probably be between 300 and 400 square miles. Ours is over 500. And we've got a lot of, I'd have to look it up to make sure, but that's what I'm guessing anyway. If we could figure out a way to, let's say, if you're given 2 schools, if you're over 300 or 400 square miles, then 2 community schools to go along with that 150
I think
student base.
Wayne County's like the 4th largest area-wise in the state.
We're up there. I think we're in the top 10 for sure.
I think it'd be,
500 some square miles.
Right.
I don't know the square miles, and I may misspeak on which county, but I'm thinking like, isn't Pocahontas County a huge county with very, very few
About
people?
12 people.
12 people, 1,000 square miles. I do know that.
definitely would need more
Right. Right. But that's what I mean. I agree with this. If we could get, if you could get a community school designation at 150, whereas let's say Genoa, for example, is 50 students, but we're funded for 150 in that school. It's going to put the staff that we need into that school. We're not going to have to cut staff,
Right.
to keep staff there. So if we could have, but that would take care of one of our small schools. We have Genoa, we have Dunlow, we have East Lynn. Pritchard is even small. Yeah. So,
Mark, you're the
if we
former
had-
legislator. You think any of these have a chance?
I think it's possible, but I will say we need to expedite it and get it up there as quickly as possible.
Right.
If we have,
Have you seen any of the legislation?
I've looked at some of it, yes.
The small school legislation, have you looked at it?
I have, I'm not really studied it a lot,
Am I on the way?
but it's my understanding